But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Geordies here. Geordies there tonight. I'm joined by Mitch, George, Stu, and Alwaleed as we look back on the last 7 days at Newcastle United. And as always, even though it's a close season, there is plenty to talk about. And don't forget, halfway through the show, we ask George. So if you've got a question for George, then make sure you stick it in the chat and we will come to those halfway through the show. But where to start, really? Well, I guess transfers, because everybody's, wanting to know, what's going on, who's coming in, who's going out. And at the moment, we're just speculating. There's not a great deal of concrete information out there. And, the two names that are on everybody's lips, of course, are Ekitike and Botman. So let's talk about those two first, Mitch. And Botman, I guess, is somebody who we've been chasing, of course, since January. And, he didn't get over the line in January. It now looks as if there could be issues getting him over the line this time. And as Tom says, Sven Botman's holding on for AC Milan. Is it time for Newcastle to leave the table? And I think this shows the way that the fan base is thinking, because Mad Mark says, but is he Tom Dixon, or is it simply speculation in the media that Lille are just trying to drive up the asking price? Shouldn't walk away from your top targets so easily after only 5 days of the window opening. So I guess that's a great example of the chat that's going on the Twitter timeline in particular about these two particular signings. And Botman, of course, is somebody we have made a priority in the last 5 months, Mitch. So give us your take on both of these. And, would you be disappointed if one or both didn't come?
No, because I think we're in a position where we have to send a message. You're not going to have our pants down. And I think they did well in January, and they're going to do it well in this window as well. It's a very, very difficult position that we're in when we're going for certain targets, because we can't just offer Champions League football on a plate. We can't offer, the best thing we've got to offer is Premiership football. People want to come and play in the Premiership. But we can't offer them Champions League football. We can't offer anything extra like, say, AC Milan could. But what we're selling is a journey. What we're selling is a package. And so you want the right characters to come into that. Now, add to that, we know clubs do all sorts of underhand deals around the world constantly. And it seems to be this situation that with Botman in particular, the player is happy to come. It's the club that's fannying around with fees. And there has to come a time where you turn around and say, right, no, enough, alas, we're done. I'm going to walk away from this. And I know how people in this region do business, and that is how they do business. They will walk away from it. And what they'll also do is remember the next time you want to come and do business with them. And so there's some people are going to learn a very hard lesson, in my opinion, if this is the way they think they can play when it comes to doing transfer business with Newcastle United. Just because we're seen as a rich club and that there's money to be had, don't think you can just come and have our pants down and take the payout, because that's not going to happen. And I think that's a strong message to send, even though it means we may miss out on some good targets. As I've said all along, my understanding is the transfer market and our strategy for the market is fluid. There's different targets for different priorities for different positions, and that will evolve as players drop into place. And it's right that they work hardest on the ones that they feel they want the most. But if that's at the expense of paying an extra 10, 15 million over the odds, absolutely not what we should be doing at all.
George, your take on this ongoing situation? As you say, we're only 5 days in.
Well, both players I would like to see come. That's my standing, but I agree with everything that Neil says. I would add to what I've liked, if it's true, and that's the trouble. I've heard, seen and read in the papers locally and nationally that somebody, Newcastle's upset because the selling club have upped the fee for Botman from 30 million to 36 million. And somebody's saying, well, Newcastle are going to say 30 million, take it or leave it. Now I hope they do. that would be great for me, even if we didn't get the player, because there are other options out there. It's not as though we're strapped for options. There's plenty of options. The more I see and read and see videos of the young Frenchman, wow, yes, I'd like to see him in a black and white shirt. And he also seems to be have the kind of character. Neil's already mentioned character. That is important. We don't want somebody coming into the dressing room that's going to upset the apple cart when we've got things going as they were. But I think he's someone who would fit in with Eddie Howe's modus operandi. I think that would work. So for me, yeah, I would like to see both players there, but I don't want to get hamstrung just because of these two players. There's plenty time. As you just said, Steve, the window's just opened, and there's time to do more business with looking for other people, for other options.
Yeah, Stu, I mean, it's the point that's been made by a lot of people in the chat. It's five days in, and I keep saying it on here. We've got to just stay calm and not panic. And you know, we mentioned it. People get sick of us saying Stockholm syndrome, which Mitch has mentioned on the Amigos many times. It's just a transition. You know, people are naturally, you know, on edge when the transfer window happens. But I think somebody made the point just slightly earlier in the chat that, you know, remember the good old days when we were looking for other teams' cast-offs and we couldn't get them over the line. You know, this is a new era. This is a new era. And if we don't get our main target, we'll get somebody, you know, as good, if not better.
Yeah, I think, was it last week? Maybe it's 2 weeks ago. I used the analogy of cheese in the local supermarket here, when it was a certain price, and then they put the price up, and I thought, well, I still want it, so I'll buy it. And then they put it up again, and I still want it, so I'll buy it. And then they put it up by about 40%. And I thought, right, I still want it, and I can afford it, but I'm not going to buy it because you're pulling me pants down. And my name's Stuart, not stupid. So I refused to buy that cheese. So I went and bought to another supermarket and bought a very similar tasting cheese for the price that I thought was reasonable. So I don't think the owners are using my cheese analogy and thinking that's the way to go forward, but it's on the same length, you know, the same sort of wavelength, I suppose. You know, it's like, okay, we understand, we want the player, we've expressed our interest. Here's a fee, but if you've agreed a fee, you don't change it. And okay, we'll go once, but again and again and again. So as some people on Twitter have seen, I was told from someone who's given me some fantastic information in the past that the club have pulled out the Botman deal, and it's not the player. So regardless whether he wants to come or not, they don't want to do business and they won't be held to ransom. And I think that can only be applauded. But as I mentioned to you earlier, Steve, this will take a few minutes. I wrote a bit of a reality check for people. You know, we are only 5 days in, and it seems like we should have signed like 432 players by now. You know, it's like we can't do it, and we're not always going to get what we want and get the players we want. So this is my little 10-point reality check. The first one, and quite to me probably the most important one, is Ashley and Bruce have gone. We should be rejoicing at this every day we wake up. They're gone. So that's the first one. The second one is we have owners who will not settle until we are sitting at the top table and then at the head of the table. We should trust them for that. And then we should then say we have a bright young manager who is a workaholic and is hell-bent on improving us and his own status. And I think we should trust him as well. Which then takes us to point number 4. This window, we will spend more money than any time in our history, the club's history. Just let that sink in for a minute instead of overreacting about, like, oh, we're not getting him, we should do this, we should that. We will spend more money than this club's ever spent over the next 2 months. And it'll be done shrewdly. They won't just throw the money at people like a la Everton. Number 5, progress will be made, and it'll be made at a sustainable rate, but at the fastest rate possible for this club to grow. Number 6, any transfer we make from now will improve our squad. If not the first 11, it will improve our squad. Think of signing people like Hendrick on a free transfer. The Chronicles lasting a story out for 4 days with what he had for breakfast and different pull-out stories, because that's all we had, scraps to feed off. Now we're getting linked with international stars, and as Mitch said, we can't offer them what other people want to offer them or can offer them at the moment, but it's coming. As a fan base, we genuinely have every other fan base in the league worried, and most of them look at us in our direction with envious eyes. We should be drinking this in and enjoying it. Number 8, we are improving all aspects of the club. Dan Ashworth, training, the ground. This week, I know a little bit of an exclusive that they've had people from KSS up and had talks with them about how to expand the ground. Now, that's the company that built the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and the ones that Man United are looking to recruit to fix their stadium. We're searching for and acquiring young talent. When was the last time we did that? So basically, we're setting solid foundations through the age groups to help generate a better future for us and create homegrown stars, which is something we've always craved and loved. If you look at the Beardsleys and Gascoignes, etc. Number 9. Well, I can't even see what I've written here. So, with the owner's wealth, which to us is beyond comprehension, and we have an articulate, intelligent, likable manager whose desire is to be successful. It's unquestionable, isn't it? What do we really have to moan about? So the very last point is the future's bright, the future's black and white. So if we don't get Botman, we'll get someone else who's equally as good. Next on the list that we've all discussed, there'll be a list of 3 or 4 targets for each one. We'll get the next one. And that was my little mini rant. But let's try and cool the jets a bit and think about what a lucky position we're in. We shouldn't really be moaning.
Good night. Thanks very much for tuning in.
I told you it would take a while. I told you it would take a while. That's because I thought Mitchell wasn't going to be on. We need to fill up the gap.
That was fantastic, Stu. That was fantastic, mate. I agree with everything on that list, mate. And everybody in the chat is, giving you a round of applause and saying well done, mate. So there's a few cheese jokes in there, which is good. But I get your point. Fantastic. And the other thing that's going well in the chat is the fact that Steve Hasty looks as if he's on his way to Buckingham Palace to be knighted. Good evening, Steve.
Good evening, guys. No, I'm just doing a guided tour of car parks in Northumberland. See which car park, and Durham as well, obviously, see which car park Mr. Patterson's in tonight, I did warn you as I would do it.
The question we were asking at the start is just really with the 2 names on everybody's, the tip of everyone's tongue, Botman and Ekitike. Would you be disappointed, Steve, if neither came over the line?
Well, I think, like most fans, the name's been bandied around for the last 6 months, so naturally there's an air of expectancy that's built up, I think. But in terms of if they don't want to be here, or if the club's having second thoughts, or if the selling clubs don't want to do deals with Newcastle United, then fair enough, we just move on, because I think we've said for weeks and weeks now that there's a 1, there's a 2, there's a 3, there's a 4, and each player is as good as the next one, and it all depends who comes in and then how that impacts on what we end up with. So if Botman, for example, has bottled it, that's a good phrase to use, Botman and bottle, then fair enough. If he doesn't want to come, or if his agent's trying to give him second thoughts, or if there is a dispute over the cost, we're not going to be held over a barrel by these people, and we just move on, and we'll go, you know what, there's someone just as good, if not better, around the corner, and we've got him on my list, and we'll make a move for him. And that's the way football's always been. So I think just with social media over the last sort of 6 months, and with our expectation that every single player will want to come to Newcastle United and will crawl over hot coals, it's not going to work out like that. Deals collapse for all sorts of reasons, and this has been the way with Newcastle United, as with the other 91 clubs in the football league and in the pyramid, since it started, since we started selling players and buying players, since the transfer systems started to operate. So we shouldn't be that too worried. I mean, what we can do is we can have a bit of fun now, and we can start throwing names around, can't we? We can start speculating on other players that we think are good enough. And I mentioned Ignacio a couple of weeks ago on the show as a player that we should look at that could be someone. Mark Wallace passed those details on. Mark's been doing some amazing sort of research into players across Europe that are available, and he passed it to our kid and said, tell your kid to have a look at this, and I watched the video, and a superb player. And what we're saying is these are the caliber of players that I'm sure Newcastle United are looking at, because they're out there and they're available. It's just whether a deal can be done. So hey, let's just let's just settle it. We're only in. I think I'm sure somebody's already said it already. We're only in the first week of the transfer window being open. There's a long way to go before we get to September. So stay calm, guys.
Yeah, stay calm is definitely the message that we're passing on this channel. Al-Walid, obviously across in Saudi Arabia, you know, you're meeting more and more supporters as the months go by. And what are you making of the transfer window and the transfer speculation where you are?
I was just in a space on Twitter with Saudi fans, and among them some Milan fans as well. And one of them is my friend. His name is Badr. He's too. He know a lot about Milan as he's a fan, and he told me that there is a deep relation between Milan and Lille, especially the owner, previous owner of highest share in Milan. I think his company or name Elliot have still get. Even he was the ex-owner of high percentage of the stock of the share in Milan. He still have a share, minor share, and he will get benefit of this deal. So the bottom line is they have a huge conflict, Milan and Lille. So I'm wondering if I know Newcastle. I'm sure Newcastle officials and owners know better. They are in the deal, but it's just us as a fan. We are wondering why we stay. I know it's first week, but we are with these two since January. So we expect a few days to finalize this. If Botman or Ekitike just to start these days will be acceptable. But now our expectation that we are very close to them because we started since January. So I wish to know why Newcastle still those deals with all this information about this relation between Lille and AC Milan. For me, this is personally I am angry about this part. But regarding Ekitike, since hopefully he will join Newcastle, but because he was, hesitate maybe in January, and maybe his agent, I don't believe when they said the agent. I think agent and the player are the same. This is the thing. I don't think the agent can do something without permission or acceptance, at least, of the player. One thing also I'm very wonder is the names of the journalists who have some info before others. Sometimes make me wonder. So some of the names, and what else? I would like really to know this part. Why we insist in Botman deal, and we know this relation between the two clubs is so. They have Sanchez who have drop the price for Milan, or Milan negotiating. It's obviously there is a lot of things behind the scene or behind closed doors between those two clubs. So hopefully we still have a lot of names to concern, and Saudi fans, some of them also happy to end with this because we didn't want to waste time on those two. So hopefully this will help us with Dan Ashworth, of course, to make the other deals shorter. And last thing I want to say, if we look back to January deals, the common thing about all the players we have, they want to play with Newcastle, and I think that's make a major role for Newcastle. And we can see, like for example, Dambert, he really was great with other players who really want to play for Newcastle. And I think this is what we should looking for the players we are gonna be negotiating with this summer window.
Great stuff, Al-Walid. Happy birthday to Michael Jameson, 45 today, mate. Many happy returns, and congratulations to Rachel Lilly, who has completed her 100 miles for June last night, and she raised £365 so far. So that was for cancer research. Rachel. Well done, Rachel. Absolutely brilliant.
Well done.
Excellent news. Mitch, the mention there of potentially getting the stadium increased is great, but the training ground is obviously something that's been stuck in the Middle Ages as far as as far as training grounds is concerned. But yeah, movement up there at last, Mitch, and it's good to see the new owners. We're saying new. They've been here since October last year now, but it's good to see them again fulfilling another promise, Mitch.
We knew how much infrastructure there was to put in for any incoming owner once Ashley decided to sell. His lack of capital investment in the club and his lack of investment in all of the things that go around the club was screamingly obvious with its absence. And so and it's why to get Newcastle United from where we were up to the top end of the league, the additional expense on things like training ground, etc., was vital. I needed somebody with a vision to see that and to understand that it isn't a quick fix. And I think this first stage is literally a stage one. I think this is a stage one to an interim phase, and then I think we'll look beyond that once that's up and running and quote unquote fit for purpose. I think that's the most that they'll not waste too much money in doing what they're doing at Benton, because I think the next stage will be something way beyond that. But yes, it's another one of those things that we all said these are the easy wins. These are the things that they needed to bring in. These are the things that are also going to attract players. If you got something where players want to be and an environment they want to be in. Eddie Howe goes on about creating the right environment for the players. So, yeah, again, another box ticked, another promise fulfilled. You can't say fairer than that, and money well invested, I'm sure.
Yeah, George, it's just great to see, isn't it? We saw those horrendous photographs years ago of the paddling pool filled with ice for the lads to go and get deep tissue injuries.
Wheelie bins with iced water in as well. I mean,
wheelie bins as well. I mean, it seems like a distant memory that. And but anyone who's watching, by the way, from another football club, because I know we'll get a few fans in from other clubs, that was a genuine photograph. It wasn't photoshopped. It wasn't. Yeah, George, it's great, isn't it?
Well, it's great, and for me, I can monitor it because it's just the other side of the railway line from my front room. I can actually see them and hear them all day from where I am, and because I live, within sight of the training ground and all of the facilities, so I know it's going on, and it's going on at a pace because it's they're there at 7:30 in the morning and they're there till 7 o'clock at night, and I can hear the machinery going all the time. So yeah, it's amazing. It's just put it into context. When Ashley took over 14 years ago, our training grounds and academy were held up as one of the ones to follow. That's how good we were. We're now a laughingstock on what is left behind. So it had to change, and anybody worth their salt would want to change it all, because it's it just isn't right. And how on earth are you going to attract players of 30, 40, 50, 60 million pounds, and they walk into a place that looks like a battlefield instead of a proper training ground? It just is a nonsense. It's it harks back to well, for me, it harks back to the 1950s when Newcastle United took what was regarded then as an amazing decision to build a gym in the car park at St James's Park. And that was the gym for the club for the next 10 years. It was ridiculous, but that's the kind of comparison I can make is that people thought Newcastle had gone mad. They're building a gym. What they're building a gym for? Where now we're catching up again, and long may it continue, and quickly. It would be my view, and it can only help is how I feel about it, and it can only help this area as well, because if there's things happening there and there's people coming and going, that's always good for the particular area, because it's in a place where they're not going to upset anybody, particularly. So no, yeah, great, and let's get it done, quick, smart.
It's a big thing for players, Stu, when they come to a club, when they maybe come in for those initial talks, to maybe even just have a look around, the training facilities, and try and grasp where they're going to be working, because obviously the pitch is where we see them perform, but they spend more time on the training ground, and Newcastle's has been sadly lacking. I mean, it was probably slightly better than Benwell, which some of us remember, but Maiden Castle, and then obviously where they are now in Benton, but it's just been 20 years behind, and it got to the point where Sunderland were heading towards the 3rd division and had better facilities than us. So this is big news, Stu, isn't it? For a lot of reasons.
Definitely, we are left in the last century when it comes to things like that, and it's the old saying of, remember when people started traveling abroad on a more regular basis, and you weren't sure if the restaurant was nice. You always told to go and check the toilets. If the toilets are nice and clean, then the restaurant's worth eating in. I don't know if it's just me that heard that, but that was the old adage. But it's similar. If you've got a training ground where it's not even a joke, is it, when you're putting ice and wheelie bins and stuff like that? I mean, what will these players think of? And they'll be speaking to players who are already in the squad, and it was run like a Butlins or a Pontons. And it's an embarrassment to what should have been what is a top Premier League club. So that's what I mentioned before. Me long stories before. The club are making all the progress. The training ground, the ground, the academy, the youth teams, and I believe it won't be long before each level of team will be playing in the same style. And I believe that's what Dan Ashworth implemented at England, and I think this is how Eddie Howe wants it as well. So if you are bringing players in, they know the role. It's not like, if you go to play for an international team, it's a different manager, it's a different formation. It can take some getting used to. But if you are promoting someone up through the ranks, when they go to the team higher above them, whether it's under 16s to under 18s, they know exactly what's expected with that role. And this will give us long-term success. And it's applauded. It's long overdue, but it's applauded. So again, it's another huge tick in the box for the people who've taken us over.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what the Saudis are like for building things and creating meccas and things which are just outstanding buildings really, and training facilities for sports stars. I mean, I guess the measures that we are taking now to improve the training ground are one thing, but one would expect that the Saudis will eventually be looking for a new site and make a purpose-built training ground for Newcastle, because this is a long-term project.
Of course, and unfortunately 14 years of previous owner, he neglect the place, neglect the club. So I'm happy now in a few months we see all this become developed, and this is really show how the new owners, or let's say the owners now, they are not new anymore, the owners, how they are really try to make the club the best club in the world.
Yeah, it's exciting times for everybody, and like we say in the chat, just enjoy it. Steve having a few technical problems, and that mobile phone noise is there again now. I'm sure somebody's getting text messages, and I've just heard it again. It goes right through my ears.
Yeah,
So apologies to anybody listening at home who's got the TV on loud, who keeps hearing that noise, but there's nothing we can do with it. The lads might have put themselves on mute. Anyway, we've got our usual section now, which is Ask George, and we have got a couple of questions for George. So let's find them now. Bear with us. A couple of technical issues, nothing to do with the mobile phone, but hold on. Here we are. Question for George from Gary. Hello, George. Which pair of fullbacks does he think are the best that he has seen at St James's Park?
Wow. There's so many. We've had some good pairs of fullbacks, but I think Craig and Clark would take some beating, to be honest. David Craig and Frank Clark as a pair, absolutely outstanding. You can go further. I could go further back to Bobby Cowell and Alf McMichael again. Absolutely incredible fullbacks. And Dick Keith and Alf McMichael for a short while. Well, McMichael just before McMichael retired, but Dick Keith was a good fullback. But I think if I'm pressed, it would be Craig and Clark would be the two. Yeah.
Okay. And this other question from Michael Jameson. Ask George the best penalty taken by a Toon player and the best penalty saved by a Toon player.
Wow. I think I've got a whole list of Shearer penalties that I love. I mean, it's as straightforward as that. Alan Shearer didn't, he didn't hesitate. He picked a spot and he hit it as hard as he could. And you can't go past that if you're playing football. I mean, the ones that miss are the ones who can't look the goalkeeper in the eye and all that sort of rubbish. Well, Shearer could look anybody in the eye and still put it in the bottom corner. No, there's a list of penalties I could pick that Shearer's taken. Some with lots of pressure. I mean, the one in the Tyne-and-Wear derby, for example. I think Shearer penalties, there's a number of them I could pick to say whether rank among the best that I've seen. Penalty saves, well, I remember it's an old one. I'm afraid I'm sorry to take you back into history, but it's an old one when we played Bolton Wanderers. So they had a young centre forward called Nat Lofthouse, who had already scored a hat trick, and he was about to score his fourth from the penalty spot, and Ronnie Simpson plucked it out of the air. One of the sort of saves that got him his nickname, the Cat. He went up in the air, grabbed the ball, and brought it down. It was just incredible. And I've a long time since I've seen a penalty save like that. On the other hand, in more recent times, some of the penalty save that Krul made both for us and for Holland while he was on our books, he made in the World Cup were outstanding by any stretch of the imagination. So there's quite a few, but I would say Ronnie Simpson saving from Nat Lofthouse. Yeah.
Last two. Tom says, ask George, what was your favourite England match that you've attended? If you have attended an England game,
I have, and it was the last one that was played locally. I went to that, and it was a good match. I'm trying to remember who it even was.
Was it Albania?
Albania, yes, and it was fantastic, good atmosphere, and a good attendance for an international match. It was a full house, so yes, I think
Albania at home.
Albania,
okay.
Yeah.
Last question. I've got a question for George. Do you remember the story behind the redevelopment of the Leazes End and why it stalled, leaving the mess that was at the end in the 70s and early 90s?
Well, it's all about Leazes Park, basically. Leazes Park belongs to the freemen, like the rest, like the grounders, like all of that land in that area, and unfortunately, they went ahead and started redevelopment, and there was some question about whether they had all the right permissions. And at the end of the day, somebody decided that they hadn't, so that's why it stalled. And it was a to and fro with the local authority for ages after that. And I think at the end of the day, it was the freemen that came in and solved it by saying, "Well, right, they can go to that line, but not an inch further." And that's why there's always been this problem about taking the ground further north up Barrack Road, because we get into that problem with the freemen and the local authority.
Yeah, okay, good stuff. We'll do another section with George next week, and keep your questions coming in for the rest of the panel. We're going to move on to the ground development is something which a lot of people seem to be talking about. Gary Milligan says, getting back to one of Stu's points, I'd love the expansion of St James's Park to overtake our highest ever attendance to 68,000. What's the panel's views? I mean, realistically, Mitch, it's probably not going to be as high as that in the first stage. I would imagine that the redevelopment would take place at the Gallagher end. It's the obvious place to develop, which wouldn't take, too long a time, I don't think. I would imagine it would take us in the 60,000s, maybe 61, 62.
I see some figure like that seems to ring a bell. But I think the other option you've got is to talk about, do we put rail seating in and allow safe standing? And if that's part of it, 68 would be possible.
Yeah.
I think we're running before we walk.
Mm-hmm.
I know everybody wants a ticket. I know everybody wants to get into the ground. I know everybody wants to see the game. But let's get the squad right. Let's get we're playing at that top flight on a regular basis. Let's get filling St James's Park week in, week out for the right reason. And then let's talk about how we'll get around the attendance problem. Because I personally think it's something that'll be on the owner's radar, but I don't think it's high on the radar.
George, expansion of the ground. I think it's a case of on demand. I mean, we're going to have an announcement soon about season tickets, of course, George.
Absolutely.
But it's not something which is a priority. The training ground and
no,
making
it's
the
not.
team better.
In fact,
when
you start talking about tickets, that's when I come to my single complaint about the new owners, to raise the cost of the season tickets. I know it's been discussed on here. I think that was a mistake. When gate money is such a small percentage of our finances, why at this time do that? I thought that was needed a bit more thought. They could have left things as they were for a year or so. Anyway, but expansion, yes, needed. And I think we shouldn't be stuck on the Gallagher end either, because I think the West Stand could easily now, or not easily, but there's more opportunities to build a light structure with lots of light getting through that would confirm, coincide with the views of the local authority on cutting the light off those houses at that side of the Leazes Terrace. So I think we shouldn't pretend that that's not possible either, because I think with modern construction it probably is. So I think that's a possibility. But yes, let's get it done, and when we're ready. But I think I agree with everything Neil says. Let's get the team right. Let's get playing right and all of that, and then the rest will follow naturally, I think.
Okay, Stu, your view on ground development. I mean, it's probably the Gallagher end. I think I'm right in saying it would be the Gallagher end where we would probably have to start anyway.
Well, I'll have to slightly disagree with Mitch about running before we can walk. I think the way the owners are looking at it is with foresight. They want to be proactive rather than reactive. And if they're committed to building the club up from the bottom upwards, and they're going to back it financially, as in put the money where the mouth is, it's only a matter of time before we are challenging it. And what do we wait until that happens and then start building, which would then possibly cause a crowd reducement for a season or two, whilst the start like we did back in the day, there was the reduced crowd. So if they are committed to us long term, I think it shows that they're exactly that. They're committed to us. It's more than anything. It's sorry, George.
Well, we're down to 38,000, Stu.
Yeah, 37 was on 36.
Yeah.
I think 37. Yeah. So they want to give us the commitment, but also they'll do a cost benefit. Now you can spend so much money on filling a corner in or another corner in, and if it's not going to recoup its investment, then is it worth doing? So the real stand that someone's just mentioned there, that Mitch mentioned before, is a way around increasing the capacity. It is, but we do want to. I know myself, and as does Al-Walid and Mitch, that in this part of the world they do want something shiny and bright they can show off, and they want to give us a ground that reflects on them, and it says this is us, this is our stadium. So I'm not surprised that they'll be speaking to the best in the business. Now that doesn't mean that work's going to start. It just shows that it's another thing that they're doing right. And if long way to continue. Keep being proactive instead of reactive, and they'll make some mistakes. We all do, but they'll get a hell of a lot more right. And I'm just so happy that they're doing what they're doing, and we will all progress together. And I believe they want as many of us to see it as possible, and let them do it. If they can build it, let it get built. We're not paying for it. We just need to enjoy it.
Yeah, Al-Walid, crowd is at the moment is 52,000, but an increase, I guess, would mean that it would be more likelihood of tickets being available to Saudi nationals to come over as well, which would be a big thing.
Of course, but I always thinking and asking if construction is going, where the team will play.
Yeah, I mean, the team would play at St James's Park. I mean, in the past, when the ground has been redeveloped, for instance, the Leazes End, when that was being built, there was a temporary stand erected, like in place of in place of the where the building work was getting done. So it can be done during the season. I mean, it would need to be looked at, but that can be done. It would be a temporary stand, a bit like the play. When you see the Open or the golf competitions, and there's a stand built at the green,
Yeah.
you like that would be the kind of thing that would do well.
It would be great if they still play, because I expect if there is more construction, it will be difficult. But I think this is maybe now, and this is just me guessing, because last time I read there is an engineer, I think, who helped Tottenham with their stadium. I think he have an idea or better idea. So I believe the club now is still considering what's the best option to do the expansion.
Yeah, and of course it would be good for for Saudis to be able to come over and have a certain allocation of tickets, Al-Walid.
Of course, yes, because a lot of us talking about the tickets last week, and we did the space recorded for this matter.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Okay, big shout out as always to our sponsors, and just want to thank them for putting a lot of time and effort into helping us out. Thanks to Spider Miner, worldwide coverage, the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks to skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245, and the Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.johd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls End, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to ClearKai, meet the new game over screen, drop into a ClearRun device near you, available Apple Shop, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks to Media Off for all the help with the video side of things. If you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week during close season. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to ask us a question or to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show finishes on YouTube. And big week this week. Become a member. You can either join by clicking the join button under the video. But if you want to go into the prize draw, then you must use either the QR code and go into the website, or go to nufcmatters.com and click membership. It is a £25 one-off fee. What do you get for your money? Well, you get a cup, a scarf, a pen, and a membership card. But this week you go into the prize draw for a season ticket or the cash equivalent, which is £1,000. And we are drawing that on the Amigos this Friday. So last few days to get yourself involved in that. Don't forget as well, if you're a subscriber, then we do give you a free car window sticker. You just need to email John at nufcmatters.com and he will post it out. We also support the food bank on this show, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk, the matchday bucket. You can make a virtual donation throughout the close season. Just go to the website. It is open 365 days of the year. And the NUFC Matters summer party is quickly approaching. Mick Lowes and Andy Griffin are on stage Friday the 24th of June. Doors at 7 o'clock at Shearer's Bar. Tickets at £12 or £15 and available from NUFCmatters.com. And we're going to do a spot prize tonight. We've got 2 tickets available for tomorrow night at the Tynemouth Surf Cafe, an evening with Gibbo and Supermac. Now, it's a very small venue in Tynemouth. It's 35 capacity. Yes, 35. But 2 tickets have become available. John is in the chat tonight, so he's got a hold of those tickets for us. I'm going to ask you a simple question. The first person in the chat who can attend the event will be the winner. So make sure you can attend if you're going to give an answer, or you know somebody who can, because we want these tickets to go. As I say, there's only a capacity of 35. So the answer is this. Who did Newcastle United kick off their pre-season friendlies against last season? Simple question. Who did Newcastle United kick off their pre-season against last season? First person to give the answer in the chat wins the pair of tickets. John, keep an eye out, and then you can liaise with John, and he will sort those tickets out for you tomorrow night. I think they will be on the door. We just need the name. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. Going to finish slightly earlier tonight. Did have a few questions coming in. George, there was another couple, and I hate missing them for you. George, who was the best Newcastle goalkeeper you've seen?
Ronnie Simpson. Sorry to go that far back, but he was just outstanding. Just outstanding. And remember, outstanding in a time when goalkeepers weren't protected like they are now.
Okay, and this one, what did you think of Dave Hollands?
Good goalkeeper. Not my favourite, but a really good goalkeeper. I mean, he's a national goalkeeper, so he could be a slouch. He was a character, Dave Hollands, I've got to say, and got well liked by the fans. But yes, a good goalkeeper. I thought Dave was a good goalkeeper and a nice character. Yeah,
apologies from the noise from my end. Wallace has got the hose on and she's watering the garden. Yes, that's how hot it is in the Costa del Northeast. It's always good doing these summer shows because we can at least get a little bit back on Mitch and Stu by saying it's warm here. Okay, yeah, as I say, we've got about 10 minutes left, and just getting back to transfers. Let's just talk, Mitch, about that marquee signing that we've mentioned. More names bandied around this week, but Christian Eriksen is another name which is we've mentioned a couple of times on this show. He's now been linked with Tottenham and Manchester United. Have Newcastle got a chance with maybe luring Eriksen here if the big guns are at the table?
Yes, I think they've got a very good chance. It depends on what a player wants. And he's a player who might relish the challenge to be told, I want you in this team to be part of what takes us to the next level. And that might be a challenge he wants. That might be a challenge that whets his appetite. That might be a challenge. Each player who comes in with their demands, it's not just about the pounds, shillings and pence. It's not as easy as just saying, well, we're going to pay you more than them. It's everything else that's delivered as the package that will tell a player whether he fancies coming up to us or not. We can't offer European football. We can't offer immediate Champions League. There's other things we can't offer. But we can offer an opportunity to be part of a revolution. We can offer an opportunity to write a name and a legacy as part of a legacy of a football club. And these are the things that they might actually, prefer. Especially somebody with his history. I think if you've spent 15 minutes dead, so it probably does change your aspect on life a lot. Mm-hmm. And I suspect when you deal with him, you're probably dealing with a slightly different beast to your regular professional footballer. And so, it depends on what they want out of that. And I think we stand a very good chance. Like my understanding is that there's been very positive talks, and there has been a while ago. So he's obviously taken his time to make his mind up, as every player has the right to do, to listen to what people are hanging on the table, and then he'll come up with an answer. Do I think we'll come out on top of it? Do you know what? I'm going to stick my neck out and say yes.
Okay, good stuff. Gary Finnegan, congratulations. You won the tickets for tomorrow night. Just email John at nufcmatters.com to get that sorted. Mitch, because I'm going to be rushing off at the end of this, I just want to say thank you, mate. You've got off your sick bed. I hope you're feeling a bit better, mate. And we've got to ask you what top you're wearing. It looks like Barcelona, is it?
It's an old Barcelona. It's a Tops Barcelona top. Aye.
All right, okay. That's it. A lot of people asking. And Tom Dixon.
Mate.
Yeah, no, go on.
I tell you what, the fever dreams I've had the last 2 days, I think I'm going to be starring in an episode of Ancient Aliens soon. Some of the weird shit going on in my mind, I tell you. Not fun.
I'm glad you're feeling a bit better. And Steve Hasty did message us. Sadly, his internet's packed up, but because he's out and about, he's still at work. But thanks, Steve, for joining us tonight. Tom, we're going to have to do something with this. Where I do the show at the minute, sometimes is there's always some weird noises. I think what we'll do is we'll start doing a prize where we give a T-shirt away if people can guess what the noise is in the house. I think it would be a classic. George, yeah, I mean Ericsson, I think would be a great signing. Look, it's a possible.
So do I.
Is it possible when we've got the likes of Man U and Tottenham breathing down?
Yes.
Your son thinks it is.
Well, I think it's got to be as well. It's not is it possible? It's got to be possible. If we're going to be up with the big players, the big hitters, then a deal like that is something that we need to be involved in. And I think Neil's absolutely right. It may just be the thing that sparks Ericsson's view of what he wants to do in the rest of his career. The other thing I like about it is I think he's a player who I don't think he's a 50 game a season player, put it that way. But for special occasions, slotting somebody like him into the team would be an absolute dream. So yes, please.
Stu, Christian Eriksen, I mean, you know, he came back from that horrific situation which Mitch has just mentioned. Is it possible?
I think it's absolutely possible. And I'm going to stick my neck out like Mitch did and say, I think we will sign him. If you look at the competition, Tottenham, do you want to go back? And Man United, who really wants to go there? And again, taking Ericsson's mindset. Oh, by the way, I've seen all these cheese jokes. You know, however, we're doing a football show. I'm going to be extra mature about this and just carry on.
Oh dear.
So,
just keep waxing lyrical, Stu. Just keep waxing lyrical.
Thank you very much.
Starting to grate on me.
I wonder if Eddie Howe, because we know that they've had talks with him, so I wonder if Eddie Howe's put on his Kevin Keegan hat on and convinced him that Denmark's closer from Newcastle than it is from London and Manchester, which it actually is geographically. So, but if you look at Man United, it's a club in turmoil, whichever way you look at it, and the fans there are. It's like a bear pit, isn't it? It's just a tinderbox waiting to kick off. And if he goes there and doesn't hit the ground running, then does he need that hassle? He doesn't need the money. He wants to play for the enjoyment. And I think we've got a manager who can sell him the idea of that he wants to play enjoyable football and he can fit in. There's not going to be great expectations to win things. Like the Tottenham will have the pressure to at least try and win a trophy and at least get in the top four. We're a club that are looking to improve. And we will improve. And do you want to be part of a feel-good factor club? And to me, it's a sale that's exciting possible, but it's a sale that is possible to Ericsson. You know, he wants to be. Well, he will be playing at the World Cup with Denmark. And does he need to be playing twice a week with European football? We don't need to offer that. So something like that might actually work in our favour in this instance. And he's free, which frees up more money for others. For other transfer targets, but he is under contract till Brentford till the end of this month. That much I do know. So whether they just okay, you can go because we know you're not signing the same as paying your salary or not, that's something that'll be debated elsewhere.
Okay, Alwaleed, Ericsson, good signing. Do you think if we can get him?
Of course, and as long as he play in Premier League, I think his medical situation is okay. Maybe I prefer Bale personally, but I think Ericsson maybe will help Newcastle more, and I think he can get along with Eddie Howe ideas. I think Ericsson goal is to play and line up so he can play in World Cup with Denmark.
Okay, fantastic show, lads. Going to have to cut it short by 5 minutes tonight because I am on my way out of the door. But as always, thanks to Al Waleed, Stu, George, Mitch, and Steve Hasty. I hope Steve Wilkinson's having a nice break. Look forward to catching you all next week. And Mitch, I will see you on Friday, mate. Take care, guys.
See you Friday.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everybody.